Okay. All right. Well, um, just kind of wrapping up a couple things from the Southeast Missouri game. I think really pleased with the way our guys came out in the first quarter with great energy, um, opportunistic. Coy Steele with a nice block kick, a big play for us that created momentum, and we carried that through. I think the first quarter pretty well. Obviously, did not play well in the second quarter, and really on any phase. Third quarter, a little different story. Came out on fire, did some really good things. And then it kind of reminded me, our fourth quarter kind of reminded me of our game against Cal Poly last year, where we jumped on them. And the game was, for all intents and purposes, kind of in hand. And yet our guys lost a little bit of focus. And we were sloppy. Special teams was not up to our standard in any way, shape, or form. And so we got their attention. And that's good. And one of the things that I've told these guys really since the season started was what a big game I think this Western Illinois game is. And I think last week, I think there was some talk about that SEMO game being a statement game. To me, the real statement's going to be made by how we prepare and play this week. We've not been the best road team during my tenure. We've played some very challenging opponents on the road, but that's no excuse. But this is the game I think that's going to define who we are as a team. How we prepare, how we play, the type of mindset that we take into this is very critical. And I think Coach Elliott has done a really good job there going into his second year. They had a tough loss on the road to North Alabama, and they walked into a little bit of a buzzsaw in the first half against Colorado State last week. But you watch these kids compete and play at the end of that game, and I was very impressed. There's no doubt that the culture's where it needs to be there. They have some talented players. I like their quarterback. I think he's not as mobile as the guy they had last year, doesn't have as much experience perhaps, but he's very accurate and he can make all the throws. 6'3", 215 pounds, kind of more of a conventional pocket passer, but he can make all the throws. They've got some weapons. I think Coach Elliott has a pretty sharp offensive mind. I mean, I think he does some things that really present challenges to the defense. They're always going to stretch you and test you on the perimeter with the fly sweep game. That's a big part of what they do. Number one, that Tony Tate, he's a good player. He's a threat in the return game, and they're going to get him the ball. He's going to have his touches, whether it's handing him the ball on fly sweep, dialing up shots for him in the pass game. I think very much they have a DNA in terms of their run game. They use a lot of tight ends, a lot of formations. They have great tempo in and out of the huddle, and they'll run some unbalanced sets. But they also are very unique in that they don't necessarily – they're a little bit more of a game plan outfit when it comes to the pass game. And so they're going to identify the weaknesses that you have in your coverages, and they're going to attack them. The other guy that's going to get his touches is 25. Really good football player. He's not their primary tailback. 21's their primary tailback, but they will put 25 in there. They'll run slip screens with him. They'll motion him out of the backfield and get him the ball. They'll run some slide boot, get him in space, and even some fly sweep with him. I mean, he's a guy that, again, you can tell they're designing their game plan around making sure that they get their touches to those two individuals in particular. Their D-line is the strength of their defense. Excellent defensive line. They're well coached. Big physical group. They lost a great player a year ago that was one of the FCS players that was drafted. I don't see a lot of drop-off on that unit, however. I think that's a very good unit. At linebacker, it's a lot of newer players. They lost some veteran guys there. And in the secondary, they've got some transfers as well. And so I like their scheme on defense. I think they're sound. They'll attack you. They'll attack your protections. They're going to try to take away what you do well. And I think they have talent. I mean, I think this is a scary team because, they've had to go on the road and play in some tough environments the last 2 weeks. And now they're at home for the first time that they get an opportunity to be at home. And so we're going to have our best. And so with that being said, one thing I do want to add, actually two things I want to add. Number one, it was really awesome to be able to honor two great Bobcats prior to our game on Saturday. I think it meant a lot to them, and it meant a lot to our players. Having Coach Holland back, that's always a special time, and so I think it was the ovation before that might have been the loudest the whole stadium got on, besides maybe a couple third downs on Saturday, and very deserving of that. And then also Darryl Dupuis, who had a great career here and hadn't come back in a long time to take a bow, and so I think it's going to be neat to honor some of those guys before games. In terms of our internal players of the week on the scout team, Blake Thielen, young man from Great Falls High, was our offensive scout player of the week. Blake Schmidt, Southern California kid, gave some great looks on the D-line. So he's our defensive scout of the week, and then Logan Kleinhans, Bozeman kid, gave us some great looks on special teams this week. In terms of the players of the game, Logan Jones was our offensive player of the game. Showed a little bit more speed than I thought he had on the edge there. And Bryce Sturck, who I think also shared the Big Sky honor this week, was our internal defensive player of the week. And then Amandre Williams was our special teams player. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions.
What's kind of the team mindset coming off of a win like that over SEMO? And you mentioned how important it is to kind of respond and keep it going, but what's kind of the mindset coming off that win?
I think we've been a very business-like outfit for a while. I think our fall camp was very much like that. I also think that, we had an experience last year where we played a ranked team, that was a playoff team the year before, had an emotional victory at home, and we played extremely poorly the next week on the road at South Dakota State. And that's one of the things we talked about yesterday, and I think it's definitely in our guys' mind that, we got to be on a different mission. We get nothing this week for what happened on Saturday night, nothing. And we're going to play a really good opponent who's going to be challenging to compete against, and we need our best.
What can you just say about the way the front seven performed on Saturday, and what the potential is for that unit going forward?
Yeah, well, obviously pleased. We had a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and we're going to need that again this week. I think that Bobby's done a nice job of solidifying us at the linebacker position. We've got a decent rotation. We're still playing a lot of guys there, but I thought Callahan Riley had a really good game. Nolan's continuing to improve in that area. Michael Jobman is playing more physical, I think more confident. And so the linebacker piece is better for us, and so that just enhances what we're doing up front. I know that the DBs are happy when we can get after the quarterback the way we did on Saturday night, and so that's I think there is a good high ceiling for that group, and I think they continue to push each other. There's a kind of a never satisfied attitude about that group in particular. And, we've got leaders like Derek Marks, who's one of your best players, who's also one of the hardest workers on your team. That just elevates the performance of everybody in that unit.
This has been a little bit of a defensive line factory through the years. Is that something you and the unit might be aware of and just trying to keep that standard going?
We are who we are. I mean, we've spent a lot of time, energy, effort, and resources to make sure that we're good on both sides of the line of scrimmage here. And, there's been some great defensive linemen here. But I think there's some pretty good ones right here now.
With Logan Jones, just kind of, was he offensively just kind of in the role that he has, maybe a little bit of a change of pace back and just kind of doing some of those different
Logan's been super productive for us. I mean, he only played in 4 games last year, and he scored a touchdown in each one of those games and had impactful moments. And so I was really pleased to see him kind of have a little bit of a breakout. But he's a weapon. He's a great kickoff return guy. He showed his speed, which is something I think maybe not everybody's really familiar with. He's one of our fastest players. Very, very, compact, dynamic runner. I think he's gotten better running our gap schemes in our inside zone. And I think it'd be an insult to him to say he's just a change of pace guy. I think he's a feature guy. He's a playmaker that needs touches in our offense. And so one of the challenges that we face a little bit on offense is how do we get all these guys involved, and especially when you're changing quarterbacks. You're in the flow, and then you say, hey, we're going to put Troy in on this down, or we're going to put Travis in on this down, and Casey's up. And that's one of the things that we're working through is how can we, continue to maintain good tempo, good flow within the offense while we're moving the pieces around. And you see that a little bit with with Isaiah at running back, with Logan at running back, with Logan on fly sweep. And I think that's going to make us really difficult to defend, but we can't do it at the expense of us not executing at a high level. And so that I think some of the lulls that we had on offense on Saturday was a little bit of a result of that. Just our flow wasn't what it needed to be, and that's a huge challenge because what we're doing isn't easy. Most people just line up with one guy behind center and they roll. And we're trying to maximize our guys and get creative in what we do to make it easy for us and difficult for the opponent. And that's still a work in progress, I think.
You mentioned that group of running backs. Where does Demarius Hosey kind of fit within that?
I think his stock rose on Saturday. I thought he ran hard, ran physical, downhill. We're going to need them all. I mean, that's a collision position, running back. And last year, to Isaiah's credit, he managed a hamstring issue for most of the year. But every week we went in not knowing what we were going to get out of him. And so we were really down to 3 guys at the end of the year. And so that's a position that we need to get those guys going early. Demarius is going to play this year. And so we need to get those guys going early so they have confidence. And when we really need them, they're going to be ready to go because they've got the game experience. And so I was really pleased to see him get that game experience. One of my favorite moments of the night, however, was not his first college touchdown. It was Carl Tucker's first college touchdown. That kid's a great team guy, and started off as a wide receiver, took on a role as kind of primarily a blocking back, protection guy for us, has worked on his craft, and it was awesome to see him get an opportunity to get a touchdown.
With Casey, just through 2 games, no interceptions, just kind of how would you say, about it and, so far?
Yeah, I think completion percentage isn't where it needs to be, but decision making has been reasonably good. We missed an easy touchdown on Saturday night. We had a play dialed up in the red zone, and I think he overthought it, and saw some pressure coming from the field, thought he was going to go somewhere else with the ball. They didn't cover the guy. There was nobody within 20 yards of him. And so he'll learn from that and get better. And so that part of the decision making and processing is still, we're getting better and better and better all the time. But if he can be a little more accurate in our quick game, that's going to really help us.
How do you like his ability to maybe just stretch the field, maybe give you guys something maybe you didn't have?
Well, certainly I think Troy did a solid job of that last year towards the end of the season. That was really kind of what he gave us in the passing game. And so we're continuing to work on that. We missed a deep shot. There was actually an opportunity for us to get one to Travis, and he got tangled up with a defender, and can't believe they missed that one, but it was interesting. And so, but he came off of that read and went to the post, threw the ball over Kev's head. That's when we hit that right there. We're up 14-0. This is probably a different ball game. And so we kind of screwed around in the second quarter and let him back into it, and that was our fault. But I think that we have to be able to hit those if we're gonna really explode on offense, and we're gonna keep taking them. I promise you that.
JoJo Henderson getting his first career pick for you as well. You mentioned Carl Tucker, but good to see JoJo get that pick as well.
And he's really playing well. I think I said it back in fall camp. He had one of our best fall camps, and he kind of gives us a 3-man rotation back there at safety and allows us to keep some guys fresh. And I think that's I've just been impressed with how he's kind of gone about his business and gotten better and better each year.
What do you think this trip will be like for Coach Frazier? Do you think he'll have a little extra juice this week going back to?
I think it's always. I've done this a number of times. I was probably a little older than him when I went back to a couple places, but I think there's familiarity. You create friendships. That's what we spend so much time together as coaches. It's crazy, and so you can't help but form friendships. I'm sure he's got some guys that he's close to on that staff, and probably recruited some of the players, and so you'll have those handshakes and those hugs before and after the games. But hey, time the whistle blows and they tee the ball up, it's our job. That's what we do.
I might be kind of late on this, but what has kind of become unique about number 41?
What's become unique about it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to share everything with you. I know that everybody thinks that we're trying to create something to throw shade on the folks over the hill, but that's not what this is about. This is about something way deeper than that, and that's an internal thing. Obviously from the exterior, it's a way for us to rep. There's been some great 41s that have played for us. This isn't about, hey, I'm going to decide I want to hand my jersey down to somebody so we can create a legacy for ourselves. This is a legacy that's already established here. We're the 41st state, Montana is, and so there's some significance there. Well-documented guys like Grant Collins, Brad Daly, Sam McCollum that wore number 41 that were great Montanans and also great football players at Montana State. And the most significant part of it is for us.
With the win big kind of mantra, just kind of being in year 4, just kind of, how would you just maybe explain that, kind of what that means for you?
That's us too. That's for us. I know everybody wants to know what's going on, but we're a family. Those guys put it up. They're the ones that strap it up. They're the ones that have been working since last January, and they know what it means.
Brian Armstrong said that ideally he would like to have 5 offensive guys, offensive linemen roll for a whole game. Do you see that happening in the future, or what is your kind of thoughts on kind of the rotation as it is?
Yeah, last year we ended up rolling 6 guys most of the tail end of the season. When guys I think it's kind of a double-edged sword because you really do want those guys to play 5 as one. And they've got to almost be able to finish each other's sentences type of thing, know exactly how they're going to respond when a guy moves a certain way. And we haven't quite gotten to that yet, but I think we're working towards that. the good news is we've got guys that are competing with each other, and so it's hard to not play some of those guys because they're producing well in practice and showing good things on tape. We're going to need them all, like I always say. I mean, it's a long season, and we just got to do a great job of keeping guys fresh. And when the opportunity presents it to play guys, we've got to play them because, again, that game experience is going to be invaluable for them as we go down the stretch.
And just kind of how good of an offensive line coach is Brian now that he's working with that position?
Yeah, I think that's kind of who he's been. I mean, when he became the play caller, we took some of that responsibility off him because it's a large group. It's a very technical position. It takes a lot of time to prepare that group. And so, but the guy's a football junkie. He watches more drill tape and clinics tape. And I mean, the guy absolutely eats, breathes, and sleeps football. And so he'll have those guys ready. And one of the things I really think Brian is excellent at, he is a great in-game adjustment run game guy. I mean, he can see how the defense is trying to attack us, and he's always been able, even when we didn't really have a passing threat at quarterback and teams were going to load the box, we've always found a way to find some run game. And that's one of the reasons why sometimes it happens in the second half. They're going to go in and they're going to try to take away what they think we're going to do well, and then we've got to be able to alter things a little bit. And he's always done a really nice job of getting us into some run game schemes that were going to be effective no matter how teams were trying to defend us.
This could be a difficult trip to manage kind of logistically, just with Macomb being a little bit of a tough place to get to and
Yeah.
things like that.
That's why we got Cole Moore. Old Jason Bourne will make sure everything's ready to go. So, yeah, we're fortunate. We have, I think, the best ops guy in the business, man. I mean, this guy's unbelievable, and he's a multitasker. He can keep a lot of things in the air. And both he and Sam Holt, our operations team, will have their hands full this week because we're landing in Moline, and then we're staying somewhere else, and then we're driving to the venue, and then going back to Moline to fly out. So it's kind of a triangle. I was trying to explain it to our captains yesterday, and they were like, what are we doing, And but we've kind of done our research, and most of the people, North Dakota State, Montana, some of the teams that have played there, that's what they kind of felt like was the best when they've tried different things. And so we're just, we got to roll with the punches, man. It is what it is. I mean, if the bus gets a flat tire, we're not going to not play. Load everybody on one bus and let's go. And so we got to be able to respond the right way. And, it's not an easy trip. We know that, but that shouldn't affect our preparation at all.
And how about just the atmosphere you're expecting there? Do you think it might be a little bit of a kind of a bring your own energy type atmosphere?
I think it's their home opener. And so those guys have been on the road for 2 weeks and school's in session. I think it'll be a good environment. I do. I think that they'll be excited to get an opportunity to come out and support their team. And that community is centered around the university. It's a college town. And so I think it'll be a good environment. And, we've played in all kinds of different environments. And so, yeah, we always have to bring our own energy, but sometimes that can be a little challenging. But I anticipate that, being a home opener, I think there'll be a good crowd. You good?
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Coach.